Everybody has those few books where they don't think anyone could possibly hate it, right? But then you look it up and a lot of people do, and then you're disappointed. Well, that's what I'm going to be doing today. Today, I decided to torture myself by reading 1-star reviews of my 5-star books. Let's get into it. This book I'm going to read reviews on is The Memory Thief by Maceyn. I loved this book, honestly. I read it in one night. Like, I started it when I went to bed and finished it before I went to sleep. And I loved it so much. It was so good, but there were probably like 500 1-star reviews on this book. This one's on The Memory Thief. Technically, I didn't finish it, but I had only like 15 pages left and I just gave up. What? Even if I hated a book, I'd still finish it if I had 15 pages left. My gosh. This book has just an interesting premise. Literally, if the author actually knew how to write, it could have been really good. The saying is show, don't tell. All this book is tell. Bad grammar. The writing is horrible, literally the worst written book I've read, because the author just lets things happen and nothing is written well and the pacing is so off. All the twists could have been good if the author spent more time honing her writing with so much wasted potential. Do not recommend. I thought the pacing was good. It was very fast. Let's see what the next person has to think. I made it 30% to The Memory Thief before I put it down and chose not to pick it up again to finish. The premise is amazing. Memories are sold from people and the public auctions on them and buys the memory to have them transferred into them. The problem for me was that the story moves so incredibly fast that I feel like there's a lot of backstory I'm missing. What backstory we do get is told via memories, which makes sense considering this book is about memories. It just wasn't enough world building and backstory for me. I know, but there was so much action. I feel like you could have tons of world building and tons of action and it'd be fine. But the best is both. But it's still fine. You know what I mean? We have characters mentioned and I have no idea who they are, why they're important, or how they relate to the main characters, or whether they're even alive or dead. And while I'm in the topic of characters, there's a whole secret society that exists and we go from being petrified of them to suddenly being in their midst and things are fine. It was jarring. And then there's a journey with Etta, the main character, and Reed, who go from hating each other to not trusting each other to suddenly being goo-goo-eyed at each other. It's just so fast. Well, the second I met Reed, I went the same way. It's fine. I'm really sad I didn't enjoy this book the way I hoped to, but I realized that when I thought about picking it back up again to continue reading, I wasn't looking forward to it at all. That's not fair to me or the book. I don't think this person comprehends stuff very well. Next, this is still on The Memory Thief. Don't bother, move along. This is not worth your time. I hardly ever write reviews, but this book is bad. By the end, I was skipping whole pages and still completely up to date on the storyline. So I'm confused. One person says it's super fast paced and stuff just happened, bam, bam, bam. This person says nothing happens. See what I mean? These people are just confused. That's why they wrote these. Another one on The Memory Thief. I had to do a bit of research on Maceyn just to make sure The Memory Thief wasn't written during her middle school years. Sadly, it wasn't. This was not a good book. It's a great book, guys. Okay, on to the next book, and this book is When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. The Timeless series is my favorite series of all time, and this is my least favorite of the series, but this is the first one. So I feel like these reviews would make most sense. And these people probably didn't come back to read the second one or the rest, even though they're so much better and they're so good and amazing, even though every single one is 5 stars, because this one, they didn't like the first one. Oh well. First review. The concept of this book had promise, but it was terribly executed. If they eliminated every time she made obvious statements about her dilemma with her 2 lives, the book would have been 1/3 as long. Several times I wondered if it was written by AI. That's like the worst insult you can give an author. Absolutely not. I would give 0 stars if I could. There were so many unanswered questions concerning the time crossing. That's why you have to read the rest of them, because the 6th one, it's like, what? Apparently the 7's even more. And it just gets more interesting as it goes. It doesn't give you all in the one book, because then you wouldn't come back to the rest. The female main character was completely insufferable, and the plot was cringy and predictable. I would have DNF'd it if I had not been reading it for a book club. Next review on When the Day Comes. This is the worst book I have read this year and possibly ever. You must have found the best book in the entire world, because I can't think of anything better than this book. Okay, on to the next book. This is the Unselected Journals of M.M. Line, Volume 1. I read this for a book club, and thank goodness it was short, or I wouldn't have made it through. I could not stand the writing style and lack of plot. Granted, Regency-era style books are not my type, but this is the reason why. Trying to be witty with absurd vocabulary instead of just saying the words that need to be said, I just couldn't. Still love you, book club. I don't know if your book club loves you anymore. Okay, the first book doesn't have a lot of plot. You're just getting to know the characters. But then after that, it has plot. And I mean, it's really short. So it's just like an intro to the series. You know what I mean? And it's great. I love these books so much. They're all 5-star. What did I just read? What was the point of that? No point, no engagement. I was just aimlessly, pointlessly reading. Boring. You're boring. I simply don't care that there's 8 other books. You couldn't pay me to read another one. I didn't like the main character. I hate the diary setup, etc., etc. If you don't like diary setup, don't pick up a book that's written like a diary. Main character's awesome. This one is on Take Me Back to Yesterday by Jasmine Little. Didn't know it was possible to hate every single character in a book, but here I am. The story had a lot of potential, but the execution just wasn't it. The time travel concept was confusing the entire time and never really explained well, which made it hard to stay invested in this story. The plot was also very repetitive, and unfortunately the characters were quite unlikable and annoying. I feel like that's kind of the point though. The characters can be a little annoying, and you don't know about the time crossing because the main character doesn't know about the time crossing. And it's like you're just figuring it out as it goes. They don't just tell you everything. Just couldn't get into it. Took me weeks to read 3 chapters. D and F. Weeks to read 3 chapters. Okay. Next book we have is Wormwood Abbey, and I love this book, and it's self-published, which makes it even better. And it's so great. It's very interesting. Here's a 1-star review on it. I honestly do not understand why this book has so many glowing reviews. I was horrendously disappointed when I picked it up. The writing is amateur and repetitive. It reads like the author's first draft, which is really unfortunate. The idea is interesting, but it's not carried through well. The writer is either disorienting or boring, with incredibly poor pacing, somehow managing to be both too fast and too slow, given that it seems its focus is on all the wrong things. Plus, the main character feels so detached from the movement despite the fact that most of the story is written in present tense. The main character feels like she is often lost within her own thoughts, are far too logical and conveniently witty. There's no real heart to the humor, given how detached the character feels, instead of actively participating in the world around her. DNF at 20%. Yeah, I know that's early on, but I couldn't stand the writing style. It had all the vibes I wanted, but the writing itself was not for me. I wanted to like it, but couldn't. That one's okay. There's some writing styles that might be great, but you don't like it. That one makes sense. Now you have Not If I Save You First by Allie Carter. First review. That was literally so dumb. Thank you for letting me know. And here's another one on this book. For as big of a story as it was, or was trying to be, it was so short that the development was incredibly rushed and also kind of made no sense. This book never got me interested. I have tried reading it before, but it was too boring. I really didn't like this book. I don't remember where I saw this book. Where I saw this book was like Harry Potter, but better. It's neither. It's not like Harry Potter at all. I don't know who told you that. This book took me forever to get through just because I was so uninterested. It moved extremely slow, and the huge plot twist was apparent from the beginning of the book. I finished it just to say that I did, but I absolutely do not recommend it. The plot twist you can kind of see, because like why else would you write the book if that wasn't going to happen? But the story going up to it's really good. Wow, that was just utterly pointless and written poorly to boot. I saw the twist coming from a mile away. Bland and uninspiring read, though something makes you want to read on to the predictable ending. Characters lack depth and the narrative is inconsistent, lapsing into third person for no obvious reason at times. There's so much better young adult literature in the genre. It's so good though. Maybe I just set ridiculously high standards for a book where the MC is named Sage, but I didn't like this book. Actually, I wish I could give this a half star. I also read them a long time ago, so some of this stuff could be true. Did not finish. Really did not like this one. This made me cringe. Maybe a 12-year-old nerd boy who plays Zelda will enjoy this. That's me. No, I'm joking. This is like one of my favorite books ever. This has to be the most boring book I've read in the past 5 years. It's so repetitive and dull. I kept hoping that it would be more exciting when the boat started sinking, but that did not happen until the last quarter of the book. But then I was past caring about any of these characters. So you were glad they sunk on the ship? Finally, it's over. Just stop reading it if you don't like it. So much potential. I wanted to like this story so much, but it was literally nothing happened until the last 40 pages. Well, you get to know the characters and all those. DNF at page 84. The beginning was too slow, nothing really happened, and I just wanted action, so I skipped to 80%. That's way too long for the pace to pick up. Well, how do you know nothing happened in between? Because you just skipped. I'm sorry to say this, but I couldn't bring myself to care about the characters and their dreams since I knew the Titanic was going to sink anyway. They didn't feel like they mattered. The author didn't make it seem like there's anything worth fighting for. Best thing I can say about this is that it has a pretty cover. It does. The cover is so pretty, guys. It's so pretty. Actually, I have a signed copy. Because it's such a good book. Didn't care for the characters or the writing, gave up and skimmed after chapter 6 and thought the ending was stupid. You thought the Titanic sunk was stupid? This is a historical fiction about the Titanic. It's gonna sink. I can summarize this book very quickly. A whole lot of nothing happens, and then the Titanic sinks. Very disappointed. This book was not interesting to me at all. It was extremely boring. Despite appearances, this is hardly a book about the Titanic. What? Okay. Did not finish. It's a skill to make a book set on the Titanic so painfully boring. Also, the number of similes on each page. Storyline was as bland as unsalted green beans. Kind of boring to me. The most interesting part was the actual sinking, which didn't happen until pretty much the very end. I think we've had enough of this, okay? It's terrible. Flashback. This is my favorite of the Keeper in Lost Cities series. 624 one-star reviews. Sophie is literally so stupid, I can't. She does make some pretty questionable decisions. Although I do really want to rant about how repetitive this whole series is. Like, actually, there's literally just one group of enemies, and the series has 7+ books, with each one being like 800 pages. Okay, only one is 800 pages. This one's 800 pages. All the other are less than 800 pages. And they act like they're 11 when they're actually 15. Overall, I just want to say that every book is literally the same, and if you want to keep your sanity, never read this series. This book was 800 pages of Fitz feet. I feel personally attacked. I mean, if you hate Fitz that much, then yes, I see why you'd hate this book. This one is mostly just Fitz. Oh my gosh. This review, you have to scroll ages to get to the end. I'm going to skip that one. I really didn't like this book. I had very little character development and barely... The whole book was character development. That was like the whole point of it. Was to get to know the characters better. I don't know. And barely any other character except for Sophie and Fitz. I would have been great to see Morella more involved, especially after what happened in the last book. Morella is the best character, I have to say. All the books would be better if she was in it, but this one was still great. This book, to me, felt like the worst in the series so far. I really hope the next book is a lot better. Nothing's better than that one, sorry. I didn't finish this book because it was so boring. I just couldn't take it anymore. It took a very long time to finish the last book, Nightfall, and that's when I know I'm done with this series. 1. This was garbage. Is -1 star possible? No, it's not. One of the most frustrating and worst books in this series. The book is so long, nothing happens much, but at the end, the villain won again, and I was so frustrated that I decided not to continue the series. Fitz is ew. I'm sorry, but I didn't want to read hundreds of pages of Sophie and Fitz stuck in the healing center. Fitzfee is garbage. Okay, so this is all just Fitz haters in here. I'm not a huge fan of Fitz either, but he's still a good character. I don't know what's happening to this series anymore. Me either. Shannon Messenger, I love your book series. I literally loved it. But then this book killed it for me. It was about 800 pages long and literally nothing happened. It's actually 845 pages long. Sophie got her hand blown up, so she lay in her hospital bed for about 400 pages and stared into Fitz's beautiful teal eyes. Fitz sucks. Alden sucks. I miss Keith. Seriously, I honestly wouldn't still be reading if I hadn't already purchased the books, but there was some progress on the triangle. These books are maddening. Maybe Sophie will snatch her entire eyelids bald and make it more interesting soon. Sorry to say, but this helping with the triangle just goes to trash in the next book. Every time I read this book, I hate it more. Then why do you keep reading it? If you don't like it, don't read it. So that's the end of this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Bye. Next week, I will be posting once a week until mid-July, and it'll be some sort of book challenge. Unless I run out of ideas, then I'll just do some random video. I will also be posting reading wrap-ups in addition to my weekly videos, and so stay tuned for those.